Well, welcome back everybody. It is Monday, and how is it going? So we are talking about why guitarists lose their inspiration. Why, it's hard sometimes to get it back. It's a tough hill whenever you lose that inspiration to play to get it back. But don't worry, there's all kinds of ways that you can actually do it, and I hope that one of these will maybe help you. If you want to check out my free guitar course, you can. The Fretboard Decoder, it is linked down below. It could be some new stuff for you to play. It could really play right into everything that we're talking about today. But other than that, we're going to jump into these, and I have 5 different, kind of ideas of why people might lose inspiration, and we're going to talk about maybe how to remedy that. So let's go. Okay, now before we get chatting too much about this stuff, if you want to know the gear I'm using today, because as always, I'm so bad at telling you guys what I'm playing through. This is a stock Danelectro 59, and I'm playing into the Friedman BE50 Deluxe, into the 2-notes Torpedo Live, and that is going right into my audio interface. I also have the Gold 72 wah. So the first one on the list is the same old, same old. If you just feel like you're just playing through the same stuff all the time, not getting any better, this can be a huge demotivator. And I know I go through this all the time. Now, one of the things that I found that helps me a lot is I try to figure out, what am I doing exactly? What are my typical moves? Now, and it could be if you're in like your pentatonic scale, for example, if you're kind of playing something like that. Like, okay, I'm always resolving to that note. It's a very habit of mine. I keep looking for my switch up here. So this is a small thing, but like I said, if we take that and I'm like, okay, I'm resolving to an A note, that sounds fine. But let's go to different A's. So let's go. Not hit those bad notes in between, but. And all of a sudden, when I started doing that stuff, I was like, oh, I love that octave. I've always, you guys have probably heard me talk about it. You've seen other videos that I love a big interval between notes. So going something like that, or maybe I'll go slide all the way up here. Now you're in a new position. So figure out a lick that you're always doing and find out how you're ending it, for example. And just be like, okay, well, if I'm ending it on that note, let's end it on the same note, but let's end it somewhere else on the same note and see what happens, Because all of a sudden, if I slid up here, not only am I ending on a different note than this, sorry, I shouldn't say different note, same note, different place, but now I'm in box 4. I might go some kind of lick, So that's a really good way to kind of conquer that one. Now the next one is we need challenges. And this is where it kind of ties into the first one a little bit, playing the same old, because if you're not challenging yourself, you're not pushing yourself to learn and incorporate new things into your playing. So you will end up just cycling through the same things all the time. And this is where, for me, writing music is so fun. I love writing music and kind of like writing it and then, really stepping back and being like, well, I've done that before. What else could I do here? Or something like that. But, challenge yourself. Learn something that is, I don't want to say like too far above your skill level, but something that's going to make you work. If you're kind of like a beginner guitar player, don't try to learn a Racer X song. But maybe try to learn, a little Paul Gilbert lick. Maybe one where he's kind of going, something to challenge yourself that makes you kind of get excited about whenever you're kind of starting to conquer that hill of playing over this lick. And you're like, oh, I'm starting to get it now. I can see what's happening. That is very motivating. That will, pour in the inspiration whenever you're finally conquering that lick. You just have to stay with it. That's the tough part about that one. But, like I said, find something that is pushing yourself a little bit more than what maybe if you're just kind of used to playing, chords, something like that. Do a riff that has a lot more movement in it. Maybe like a... some ACDs or something like that. There's more movement involved there. It's a nice challenge, though. Now this one is something that I run into a lot. I teach a little bit still on Skype, not a whole lot anymore, but I still run into people who, you know, are questioning whether they're getting any better or not. And I think it's because with guitar, it's really hard to gauge success, you know, because music and sound and all that stuff it's just something you hear. You know, there's no physical look to it, I guess. But there is actually one way you can gauge yourself. This is where we're using a metronome. So this is going to be geared more towards building speed, but you can use a metronome for this. So take your favorite speed building lick, you know, whatever it is. We'll do the a simple pentatonic one. Okay, something like that. And all I'm doing is 7/5 on the G and then 7/5 on the D. Now I'm adding palm muting, but you don't have to if you don't want to. And figure out at what speed you can play that, where you can comfortably repeat it with no mistakes, but you know, like I said, you can still keep up with it. And sit there and chart that down. Now the next day, increase your metronome by a couple BPM. You know, and if you just keep doing this, before you know it, you've increased your speed by 20 BPM, which is very noticeable. A couple BPM here and there isn't as, you know, distinguishable for you to hear. But if you're 20 BPM different, that's a big jump. You've increased your speed a lot. And not only that, if you're keeping track of this stuff, you've got a number. You're like, oh, dude, I was at 90 BPM. I'm at 120. I've went up 30 BPM. You know, and that was always exciting for me. I actually did. I kept a little, like, basically like a journal of practice stuff, you know, early on. And I think that stuff is really, really useful. Now, the next one is kind of tough, but can be very useful. And that is, you know, your gear can be uninspiring. It doesn't mean that it's not good gear or anything like that. I just know that new gear can be extremely inspiring. You know, you get a new guitar, you get a new amp, all this kind of stuff. To be honest, and some of you might laugh at this, one of the most inspiring pieces of gear I ever got when I was, you know, a much younger player was I got a Line 6 2x12 Spider. And it was because it had all these effects and all this stuff in there. I mean, maybe now if I listen to it, you know, it wouldn't be the best. It was like the Spider 1. Maybe it wouldn't be the best sounding amp. But back then, it was incredibly inspiring because I had a Fender amp before that. So this one had lots of distortion, all these sound effects, delay, reverb. It was so inspiring. Now, the challenge with that is like, well, how do you afford all this new gear to keep you inspired? Well, for one, I know I sure can't buy gear all the time. So what I do is I tend to sell stuff that I'm not using. I had an SG, a lot of you guys might have known. I just sold it. I really wasn't playing it that much, so I sold it to get some money for potentially getting another guitar. I had a bunch of pedals I wasn't using anymore. I sold those. And that's honestly how I've always done it. Whenever I wanted something new, 9 times out of 10, I sold stuff that I wasn't using anymore and used that money to buy other things. I remember I sold my white Charvel to buy a green Strat I had for a while. I sold the green Strat to, you know, and I just kind of like, if I'm not using that guitar a whole bunch, I don't believe in just letting stuff sit. I'd rather sell it and get something that's going to be more inspiring and all that kind of stuff. So that's kind of how I've always done it, but you know, to each their own. And the final one is no one to push you to make you want to be better. Now, I got lucky when I was starting out. Me and my one of my best friends, Steven, if you're watching this, what's up, buddy? You know, we started playing guitar at the exact same time. Well, he started a little bit before me, but basically the same time. And I think that was a real motivator. I've always been a very competitive person, but not in like the get mad if I lose kind of way. Just I love the excitement of competing in like a very positive way. You know, never negative. I don't care so much about winning or losing. I mean, who doesn't like to win? But I like that competitiveness. So, you know, we would come back each week. He would know Crazy Train. I remember he was the first one to figure out how to do the tapping stuff. And I was just like, what? You know, so that is really, you know, crucial. Now, obviously not everyone has that ability to always have someone to jam with. This is where, and this is not a plug for myself in any way, so please don't think that. But I think, you know, getting a teacher can be extremely motivating because sometimes whenever you have like a weekly lesson and you have to show a person like, what did you practice this stuff, that can kind of push you to make you work through your stuff. It kind of like holds you accountable. Like, well, did I practice? Did I work on this stuff? So I think something like that is super, super crucial. And, you know, a teacher can push you to make you want to do better, can encourage you if you're feeling down. You know, there's all kinds of good things from that. But I think that's another huge reason why people lose inspiration is they might just not have anybody to jam with, and that's unfortunate. But a lot of times, you know, that's just not an option. So maybe look into teachers. Luckily now with the internet, you can even purchase like lessons and stuff like that. I don't think that those will push you quite as much as an actual physical person teaching you. But hey, you know what? Something's a whole lot better than nothing. All right, homies, that is going to be it. Hope you enjoyed the video. I will be seeing you all back on Wednesday. And yo, other than that, peace out. Keep on rocking. Guitar High Fives out of here. Whoop.